The F1 interview process is all about convincing the officer that you are a student who's going to study in America. Unfortunately, the officer will always assume the worst, so it's up to you as a student to convince the officer. Just because you appeared for the interview, don't assume that the officer will always assume the best, or the officer will already have assumed that you're already a student. It's up to you as a student to convince the officer. This is why it's important for you to ace the interview and for you to carry and conduct yourself as a student. And today we're going to cover a few basic questions and a few tips on how to ace this interview process. As I've explained before, to test your preparedness of going to America, the visa officer will ask you academic questions, financial questions, and personal questions. Academic questions will basically assess whether your educational background and the choice of university will match up with what you're going to study, and whether your academic goals or your career goals will line up with what you're going to study. Your financial questions about your financial situation will help determine whether you have enough funding to go to America. This often includes things like having scholarships or having to prove financial statements, bank statements about your parents, and things of that nature. Whether you can afford to go to that institution, not only just to pay for school fees, but also to maintain yourself while you're there. Personal questions. These are personal questions like your future plans and ties to your home country. These questions are often asked so the visa officer can see your intentions, whether you intend to go back to your country. And remember, it's up to you to convince the officer. The officer will not assume that all of these three categories of questions are in your best interest, or he won't assume that automatically you've got good academics, you have good finances, and you have good personal goals. No, you have to convince the officer on each one of these three. Preparation is the success of answering these questions. In the next 4 or 5 videos, we'll take a deep dive into the category of questions that I just named, the academic, financial, and personal questions, and other common questions that might be tricky, surprising questions that they might ask you. So preparation is key to actually passing this interview and being aware of what kind of questions they'll ask you. There's nothing wrong with that. Showing preparedness actually shows the officer that you put some effort as a student in actually attaining this visa.